we felt that it is important to give you not really our final statement, but our statement in relation to the events that have unfolded in the past 2 days, whilst our work has been on and on since the time we received the election results. Over the last few days, following a significant election result, South Africa showed the resilience of our democracy. The legislatures of all 9 provinces are now established with members sworn in and speakers and deputy speakers elected. Most significantly, the 9 provincial legislatures elected premiers in a democratic process to lead government in their provinces in the 7th administration, with the ANC leading 7 out of 9 provinces. The ANC continues to lead the governments of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Free State, Northwest, Eastern Cape, and Northern Cape. In 2 provinces, we have governments of provincial unity, in Gauteng led by the ANC and in KwaZulu-Natal led by the Ncop Freedom Party. The DA continues to lead the Western Cape. Having reached broad consensus on the government of national unity, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces elected the leadership of Parliament. The ANC congratulates Comrade Tokoti Diza on the election as the Speaker of the National Assembly, Comrade Refile Mtsweni Tsipane as Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, and Dr. Annelie Lotriat as the Deputy Speaker. We are confident that they will perform their duties capably and diligently. We also congratulate our Chief Whip, Comrade Mdumiseni Ntuli. Comrade Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa has been re-elected the President of the Republic of South Africa with 83% support from members of the National Assembly. This overwhelming support for the President Ramaphosa represents a vote of confidence in the resilience and stability of our democracy. The ANC congratulates Comrade Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa on his election as President of the Republic. His election reflects the tremendous confidence of South Africans across society in his leadership and in his ability to lead the country into a new era. The result of yesterday's election of leadership for 2 critical arms of state, legislatures and executives, affirms the ANC's initiative to advocate for the coming together in government of national unity in the interests of all South Africans. The parties working together to take forward an inclusive government of national unity have embraced a statement, quote unquote, of intent of the 2024 Government of National Unity, which outlines foundational principles, a basic minimum program of priorities and modalities of the GNU. Parties continue to make inputs into the GNU Statement of Intent in order to reflect the broad consensus that should characterize its formation and modalities. The Statement of Intent categorically places the needs of South African people first, as expressed in the proposed minimum program for the 7th administration, including the focus on economic inclusion, industrialization, transformation and job creation, protection of workers and women's rights, improving and extending basic services, and tackling the high cost of living, investing in people through education, skills and health, the fight against corruption and crime, and progressive foreign policy that reflects our national values and interests. Above all, parties to the JNU agrees that as we enter the next decade of freedom, we must work together and move decisively to tackle the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. As a precondition for a non-racial, non-sexist, united, democratic, and prosperous South Africa, the parties have made a commitment to an all-inclusive national dialogue process with parties, civil society, labor, business, and other sectors to discuss critical challenges facing the nation. The national dialogue process will seek to develop a national social compact that enables the country to meet the overarching aspirations of the National Development Plan, to eliminate poverty and significantly reduce inequality towards 2030. The ANC in the coming days will continue engagement with all parties as we move towards the steps to form the government of national unity. As has already been announced, the president will be inaugurated on the 19th of August 2024, and thereafter will announce an inclusive GNU cabinet. All these positive developments of the past 2 days have brought huge relief and a renewed sense of hope across the length and breadth of our beloved country, South Africa. We have demonstrated that we are ready to set aside our political differences, find innovative ways to work together in the interests of the people of our nation and our people as a whole. We will do more together, working with all political parties and listening to the people of South Africa through their formations in civil society and broadly, even through the media, about their interests and their criticism and constructive criticism of government and the direction we are taking as political formations in the country. Yesterday, we have reached a major breakthrough by electing a parliament after the election. Despite our differences and despite the opposition even from within, we have shown maturity to the world that South Africa indeed is not a failed democracy. It is maturing, and it is at a level of the advanced democracies in the African continent and the world. And Nelson Mandela was smiling on us yesterday that the vision set from the inception of 1994 as a foundation of moving South Africa forward in the manner in which he has done at that particular moment is still alive even today. This country is full of possibilities, and this was a moment to be celebrated by everyone. And for that, we say, long live South Africa, long live. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just in order to be able to support colleagues, I am going to ask that we identify ourselves. I'll start at the back this time around, and then I will also come and zigzag to a zebra this side to SABC. Over to you, my brother.
I'll come forward. Hi, good morning, SG and DSG. Paul Becchiota from Bloomberg. You told us about the whole situation at the moment, but actually, this election, although the ANC remains the largest party, it's been quite a shock. So could you give us some idea about what the ANC as a party has to do now? You've got some outstanding issues such as a disciplinary hearing with the former President Zuma. Is that going to go ahead? And then could you tell us about how the party is going to regroup and that after this election and what its plans are as the party itself, not necessarily as the party of government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. DC.
I'd just like more details on this national dialogue process that you say you're going to be embarking on. What is precipitated this? Are you basically saying that you don't know what the priorities of South African people are at this point in time? How long will be the process? How is it going to be institutionalized? How are the recommendations going to be implemented? Just give us some of those details.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to proceed to two more hands, Sunday World and my sister over here.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mawani from the Sunday World. Apologies for my voice. I caught some cold last night.
It's not true.
Anyway, yes, Chief, can you please clarify South Africans as to the parties that are part of, there seems to be a bit of confusion about the actual parties. Can you name the parties individually that have signed on the dotted line, not people who have agreed informally, and then also clarify parties that were invited but refused by name. And then secondly, a final point from my side, as you say here, to go to direct, you say despite opposition even from within, which is an obvious fact because you admit to it. There are those from within the ANC who say that this decision is effectively a tombstone to the ANC, and that the ANC will swallow the ANC and dominated by the ANC. You never become this. What is your comment on that?
Thank you very much, Sunday World. Over to you, Susan.
Anastasia from Jakarta FM. SG, there were concerns from alliance partners, particularly SACP, in relation to working with the DA. Have you been able to just reaffirm to them that this is not going to reverse any gains, particularly affecting the working class?
SG, are you happy that I turn over to you?
Yeah. Let me give my tombstones here. Do you want to do you want to respond to help me? I'll start with Mdu and with Nomvula, and then I will level up. If there's any question you want to respond to.
Not at this stage, COVID SG.
Okay, Nomvula.
Not at this stage.
No, thank you very much. I think what you have raised about the alliance, alliance partners have been taken on board from inception post the elections outcomes. And we also had another interaction with the alliance post the National Executive Committee meeting. And through the Alliance Secretariat, we continue to interact. And at the technical level, they've also been able to make their own submissions and concerns. What has been an issue raised previously by the Alliance was primarily at a time before we interacted with them. But out of the political council of the Alliance, everything was understood. For example, the issue about the protection of the workers' rights, that is legislated. It is within the laws of our country and in the Constitution. The issues that are related to possible change of policies, it was also appreciated by the Alliance that we now are going to have a political council that will deal with these issues. But in the very understanding of the GNU, no party has a singular authority to change the current existing laws. And finally, on the Alliance, one of the things we have agreed on is that beyond the national dialogue, there would also be an interaction with our structures, with the NEC being deployed together with the Alliance national leaders to go and brief our respective structures. Where we stand now, the Alliance is on board. The Alliance has even made an input onto the very statement that is that is actually out there in the public, and that is a demonstration of how we have painstakingly made sure that we don't leave anyone behind, including our alliance partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DSG. Bloomberg, what will ANC do now? I thought we have answered that question through what we have done since the announcement of the results. We went to the National Executive Committee, and then the National Executive Committee gave us a mandate to go and talk to political parties about the government of national unity, which is what we have done. We went to talk to political parties in exploratory discussions. Some were keen, in majority, and amenable to the government of national unity and raised strategic and tactical questions. Some were not interested in it. Two parties were not interested to be part of it. They wanted a grand coalition. A grand coalition, it means a party that works with parties or a single party to form government. And when it is convenient to themselves, some try to throw in ideology. It is very difficult to deal with people who deal with ideology on the basis of the change of weather. When it suits them, they are Marxists. They want state intervention. When the weather changes, they are something else. And I don't want to mention those political parties because their flip-flopping is well written in history. And the ANC have been very consistent, even where we have lost and we had a choice to work with the Democratic Alliance. As the main parties that have been voted in majority, we have not worked with them in the interest of the people, and that has taught us a lesson that give the people what they want, and then you'll govern well. And then even in those instances, we did not eschew ideology for political convenience. We remain consistent. Now, it is very difficult in this particular instance to deal with political parties that are like that. And then there are very few, of course, when it was because they wanted a deal for themselves, not a deal for the people, but they used ideology to define what kind of deal do they actually want. And you know that the history of this country is littered with experiences of coalitions for the past decade. And you know these political parties, where did they stand in relation to these particular matters? So where is consistency, where is ideology? So when you make tactical choices to advance your political interests, ideology doesn't matter. It matters now because you want some of your people to become meaningful in a government, ministers, deputy president, because you will then say, if you are consistent in ideology, because the option of going to the benches and become a backbencher, even the ANC considered. Out of all the models that I briefed you about right from the inception, we had three models. The first model was a grand coalition, and then the second one was a minority government, and the third one was a unity government. And then we remained with one. So we didn't just jump all the hurdles and then became number one. Government of national unity became number one. We interrogated the models, the risks, and the implications. And that's what the ANC have done. So other political parties became philosophical and then wanted to challenge the results. We respect their right to do so. And then others brought red lines that this and that should not happen. Let me tell you, the most talked about political party is the DA. The DA brought red lines, and I'm happy to have a one-on-one discussion with you to tell you about the most difficult questions in the negotiations, which we may not finish in this press conference, and they are very interesting. You will write a book about them. So we will need a one-on-one with all of you about that. That is very important. All of these comrades in front here were part and parcel of the negotiating team, which was very much interesting, including party by party and what were the main differences. DA came, and then when we met as political formations, that look, to us, this and that should not actually happen, and all of that. So we said, no, it's within your right, and they respected the fact that some of the red lines is actually their own outline, but it does not mean that it must guide the ANC. The ANC is an independent organization. And we agreed on the fundamentals. What is it that is fundamental is that, do we want to work for South Africa, all of us? And what is it that must actually guide us in relation to that working together? And then the talks began on the basis of that. Do we want stability? And then do we want the economy that is growing and that create jobs and all of that? That's what is important. And then there was no condition like remove so and so, and then we can talk. Then the talks began. So the talks in their very nature, when you talk to your strategic opponent, it's not about that you come with a bucket of things that will be agreed upon. It's an undertaking to an attack. Undertaking is a give and take. It is full and infested with compromises. And then that is it. But the fundamental principle is that you work together to advance the interest of the people of South Africa first. And that is what took us to where we are today. So all other political parties interrogated this and that and so on. And it was a very cordial, matured political discussion. And we will want to keep it as such. And beyond that, talks, we firmed up our position that the right thing to do here with our majority, let's work for South Africa. Remember, we've got 6 million. We can decide what we want to do. We can't go to anyone begging with a cap in the hand. We decided that let's work for South Africa. Let's work with everybody who want to work with us and who want to work for South Africa's interest. And on that, we did not back down. And we went to political parties, and majority agreed, as it is reflected in the election of the president. Remember, now we are no longer talking where do you stand and all of that. It's a question of where do we stand in relation to what we need for progress of South Africa going forward. Even those who constituted themselves as a progressive formation inside got depleted when it came to the president. It showed that it is not a monolithic group of people. Their independence vary from one matter to the other, and that's it. So we've done a lot. Now we passed the biggest not hurdle, the testing moment of the legislature and electing a president. Now we're going to a government of national unity. And every political party and everybody will want to see how truthful is the ANC in terms of its commitment and what it promised to the people of South Africa. And that is going to be the test in time. And it is a moment where we characterize as engagement with political parties, small and big, about this government of national unity. So that work, as I explained to you, is going to continue in the next couple of days. The DC against Zuma will continue. Nothing has changed. It will continue. We said that before the elections that it must be postponed till after the elections, that disciplinary process will continue. If we are going to bend on the fundamentals for political convenience, the ANC will not exist as a party. Even at the moment where we've got 40%, that DC will continue. And it cannot be changed. So because if that DC must not continue, then members of the ANC will say those who have been subjected to the authority of the disciplinary process and discipline of the organization, why should I not be subjected to DC when it actually chooses people and all of that? So the DC will continue. How will ANC regroup? We will answer that question. It is very important. We characterize this period as a setback. From a setback, you can move to a disaster. So the fact that we have suffered a setback, it means the people have given us a chance. And 6 million people said, continue to govern, but govern with others. You don't have a majority. So in itself, it must be analyzed properly and politically. And the liberation movement must not die in our hands. People are saying all sorts of things about the engagement with the Democratic Alliance and everybody else. I'll come to that particular point. But I'm saying the ANC will take a dipstick politically and otherwise to look at this moment and what it represents with empirical evidence. Let me share with you something that we never shared with you even before the elections. Before the elections, we knew that we were told by our researchers that we were going to get 43%. We worked very hard to jump that 43%, which we did not. And in our own projections with the work and the campaign and the fight we put up, we thought, like always, we will get maybe to 50%. It depends on 50%, it will be on 54 or what. We still have got to analyze what brought us to 40 and not above 43%. So that work is going to continue. And that work must then inform our program of action. But central to that program of action is the renewal program. To an extent, how people view the ANC, it will depend on what we do on the renewal program and that research itself to say what is it that we need to do right going forward as a party. And that is what is important we are going to do. National dialogue, it's an idea that has been put out there to build a consensus around national issues irrespective of ideological differences. What are those issues? And then it is a national dialogue idea we put out there before the elections and after, that it must mobilize civil society and all of that in terms of what are the key priorities for the country. And probably now it will pronounce itself in relation to the GNU itself. And post-election, what is it that needs to happen for South Africa going forward? So it's going to be important. It will be convened, I think, after the inauguration, because the inauguration is next week on Wednesday. And I suppose you are all invited. I'm not. Ramaphosa will invite you, all of you, as the state president. But you know, you are gate crushers as the media. And then Sunday World. I don't have the list of parties, but I was signing now. But there's a couple of parties that have signed, and will be able to supply you with that list of parties. And it is encouraging to see so many parties coming to the party in terms of signing. We have signed with the Democratic Alliance. We are signing with also other political parties in relation to the statement of intent. The parties that have refused to be part of the GNU, they are about, what? Three. They wanted a different arrangement of a government, a grand coalition. We don't believe in that, because that grand coalition must equally be defined. What is it in its intentions? What does it want to address? Our route is the route of engaging with everybody. Is this a tombstone decision? We don't think so. Of course, those who've got self-interest, who in the political landscape, through the numbers of elections, they've basically reached saturation. They have not shown growth. As much as we are going down, others have not shown growth in terms of their numbers. They've basically reached saturation. Even the bigger political parties, it doesn't seem that they will go beyond what they've been getting. As we go down, they benefit from that, from the subjective weaknesses of the governing party. It doesn't seem that those fortunes have actually favored them. The ANC have gone down. In our analysis, cursory, it tells us that the MK party have taken a chunk of our vote, and largely in KZN. But it doesn't show that other parties have benefited out of that. Zuma woke up and formed a party, and he called it Umkhonto Wesizwe. For the first time, it gave him 2.3 million people who voted for him. And then what is the benefit for the EFF out of that? Nothing. It has gone down in terms of numbers. What is the benefit for the DA? It has not gone beyond 20% in the electorate. As we go down, this elephant is falling, as they characterize it. And then we have seen new political parties breaking new grounds. But equally, they've not brought bigger numbers, as it would have been expected. Some political parties, if posters were to define the number of votes, they should be on the leaderboard. I mean, they were bigger than the ANC on the battle of posters. Nothing wrong, good strategy. Some had bigger billboards than us. But if billboards were to be defined as smaller parties that you gain more votes, it didn't. We had a low voter turnout in our base areas. And we need to analyze, why did the people not come out when the queues were so long? We didn't register bigger numbers. We had more challenges in our base areas when it comes to encounters with the vote, education. People probably did not understand on the day that the Constitutional Court ruling means that you must vote where you have registered. And they thought that it is like the old election. So many people were turned away. And it's not the fault of the IC. That Mbalula, I rock up in Bloemfontein at Kukemur Street, where I was registered, and I arrived there, and I have not even paid attention to the rules of the election, that I will not vote anywhere else in the country except in Kukemur. And then I'm turned away when I get to Johannesburg on the voting day. Many people did not get that message. I'm sure you know that as a fact. Many people, and it affected our base areas. So it's not conclusive, that analysis, but it's important that we must look into it. But equally, were we affected by voter apathy in this election? We thought we had 20 million, we had 16 million people who voted. And the ANC got 6 million out of that, and the rest shared among themselves. So we need to look into that. So the decision that this is a tombstone decision, let me explain to you, we are not in a grand coalition, we are in a government of national unity. And the DA is part and parcel of that government of national unity. And we have negotiated and engaged with the DA in relation to that government of national unity. And we will do that also in municipalities around the country, so that we bring about stability in our approach. There's been an over-exaggerated distortion that the ANC is now working with the DA. Did you see that in relation to the outcome of yesterday? Ramaphosa was not voted only by the DA, even by those who said they are progressive, they are a bloc. They voted for the president. Let's use that as a measure in the National Assembly as the president of the country. So the cooperation and the maturity of the DA and the ANC to cooperate must be celebrated by South Africans. Must be celebrated by South Africans. And we can have a debate about that. Please organize a Zoom meeting. We have a debate on that. About, because we have ceased to debate since the advent of X. You just post something on X and then you trend. And then there is no discussion. We have killed the national debate in the country. When people analyze moments like this and the GNU, they are insulted. They are boxed. And then JJ is having a rant. And then that's it. It's a debate. I mean, it's shameful for the country like ours. We come from a rich history. Yabombeki, Bomondli Makanya, Bobutelezi, Umdagashenge, not afraid to write and analyze situation and exchange. Before we even arrived at the transitional mechanisms for South Africa, can you imagine what debate did we have through the strategic perspective led by Joe Slovo? In this country, we woke up one day, Nelson Mandela and the ANC delegation were at Mount Nelson Hotel, somewhere towards the Paarl in Stellenbosch, and they announced the Groteskir minute and the suspension of the armed struggle. Do you remember that? And then the ANC, it was said, is selling out at that particular moment. And I was part of a group of young people, Nabo Nomvula, but Nomvula is older than me. Don't, Musisi Wamlo. But much younger, Tina, Nabomdu, and many others, we said that how can the armed struggle be suspended? We went to the structures. The ANC leadership came to us. I remember arriving in a meeting with Peter Mugaba at 6 a.m. and we arrived late. And then the whole top 6 of the ANC was there, and Oliver Tambo and Walter Sisulu. You can imagine, Mawande. We arrived late because the previous night we didn't sleep. And then we arrived. And then the leadership explained to us the suspension of the armed struggle to the youth, because young people felt that, hey, this is a sellout position. Any leadership that is facing challenges and takes strategic decisions about the way forward, it must not be afraid of criticism, even from its ranks. Since when all ANC members think alike? And that's why I was telling SA2, this thing of protesting at the NEC rally is wrong. You've got a hotline with me. But why didn't you ask me, what do we think? You think protesting will resolve things? Uzap was also too DA and all of that. The moment we are in is not about moments of protest and threats. It's about thinking. We don't have a majority. We have lost the election, actually. And it doesn't mean in the alliance and ourselves, we must think alike. Anybody who says, but comrades, what is entailed in this GNU? We start to characterize him because me and we can't explain our decision. We say these comrades are wrong. They must be brought to the DC. The leadership that is elected analyzes and take decisions and risks. The moment we are in is inherent with risks. Inali Bariking Yahlaba. Collins Chaban likes that song. Inzima lendlela inameva yahlaba. And therefore, what do? We have taken a strategic decision to form a GNU, which we will explain to our membership. What does it mean? And we have explained to South Africans what does it mean. And it's not going to be hamstrung, that debate and discussion, by slogans and rhetoric and empty slogans. It's not. Revolution is not led by slogans. The ideology of the ANC must not be distorted in the meantime. To equate the ANC as a black political party, we are not ASAPO. We are not PAC. We are Pan-Africanist. We are not Freedom Front, to be extreme. We are the African National Congress, multi-ideological party. In our ranks, we've got capitalists. Capitalists. Today, we are blessed that the capitalist color in the ANC have also become black, albeit a minority. Secondly, we live in a capitalist society that we seek to transform. And the measures we put in place to transform the economy, to bring about equitability in the South African society, is the idea the ANC is pursuing. You can characterize that as social democracy. But the ANC is not communist. That's why there is a communist party. We don't pronounce socialism. So when Soli does not agree with things that we do as the liberation movement, as the ANC, he can't be wrong, because ideologically, that's what they are pursuing. And we have come together through an alliance, knowing very well that this liberation struggle is led Gukalele Payin, the ANC. But if you want to become a communist and pursue a socialist agenda and a classless, pure classless society, you belong in the Communist Party. But if you are a Democrat, you belong in the ANC. Uguti mnandi lapa matot, andi pambila dilapa. You belong in the African National Congress. That's who we are. We are unique in that sense in the world. So we must not be classified as a black political party. Yes, in terms of the content of the National Democratic Revolution, we are pursuing, in the main, the liberation of blacks in general and Africans in particular, within the paradigm of a society that is racialized and all of that, where we seek to address the inequalities by ensuring that we pursue the agenda, among others, of nation building and addressing all of those particular issues that affect the national question in our country. So we can't be classified like that. We are not we are not a party narrowly that pursue those ideas, but it doesn't make us friends with the DA because the DA has got its own ideology and outlook. But the DA is a strategic opponent of the ANC. Strategic opponent. In our political landscape, we've got adversaries that we don't agree with, and that include the DA and the EFF. EFF, by merely espousing and verbosing an idea of blackness, it doesn't make us an ideological ally as the ANC, because they could be something that we don't know and what we define ourselves. But the fundamental question before us is, here is an election, what do we do about it, and who comes to the party, and that is it. If we want to argue ideology, let's do that. And you will realize that if we were to do that, we're way apart with each other. When we ask the question of colonialism of a special type, we don't know where they stand. When we ask the question of non-racialism, we don't know where they stand. At least you know where the ANC stands on the question of non-racialism and everything else, and the colonialism of a special type. Let's start there and ask everybody else, where do they start? We are not ideologically close with the DA. It is our strategic opponent, like all others, including those who think they've got left-leaning and black. They are not our friends. They have shown to be populist, at best anarchist of the West order, with no ideology in perpetuity. They don't know what they stand for. If you come to them and say, let's pass a law about death penalty, they say, it looks like it will win us votes. Let's go. We don't work like that. We never went to the people and say, let's sign for death penalty. Let's do this thing. We are not like that because we've got an ideology. We stand for something. That's what we stand for as the African National Congress. And we have worked with the DA in coalitions in the Western Cape. We have worked with the IFP in coalitions in KwaZulu-Natal when Nelson Mandela was alive. And we went back and reclaimed KwaZulu-Natal from the IFP, and we led. There's nothing new out of that. We made choices ourselves that we don't go to the back benches as much as we are there, but we'll also get into the executive. We worked with the IFP. So where was this ideological issue? We lost the Western Cape when we were in the coalition, and we lost after the DA here in the Western Cape. And then we were politically annihilated. The SACP is our ally. They've got the robust views, and then they persuade us ideologically and otherwise. We listen to them. We've delivered the first phase of the GNU through the legislatures. We're moving to the second one. We've got a strategic debate and discussion we're going to have with our allies on our own about what then must be this GNU in terms of content and form. And that belongs to the ANC and our allies. It's a debate. So don't be deterred by people and ANC activists who raised their strategic perspective about this moment and the decisions we've taken. Nomvula have clarified, we are going to our structures in the next coming weeks. And they will definitely come with their viewpoints. We must listen to them. But there's nothing that says in terms of the ANC constitution, and we are not constitutionalists. Steve Tshwete says to us, speaking from the grave, use the constitution to think. Use the constitution to build. Don't use it to curtail debate. So we must listen. We must not say democratic centralism says to us we take decisions. Yes, we have. But at the same time, we must listen. We are going to listen to our structures. Those who are on Facebook and media and what I characterize as armchair critics, they are people who never campaigned on door-to-door. But today they want to tell us that don't work with so and so. But they never even wore the T-shirt of the president. At best in this campaign, they were critics. They were opponents. They were advocating for the destruction of the ANC. Today, when we are below 50, they want to answer the question, what is to be done? And then they say, in their reductionist thoughts and the distortion of the ANC ideology, that no, confine yourself in a locker room with us. But when they were doing whatever they were doing, they did not consult with us. What if they've got crooks in their list who will demand to become ministers? What are we going to do? What if they've got people with questionable backgrounds who will want Ramaphosa to appoint them in cabinet? Because they've got the vote, they've brought us below, we must now succumb to that. We're not negotiating with anybody with the hand in the cap. We will engage politically, soberly, and at the same time, we will use the mandate we have gone to deepen not only democracy but social transformation in our country. And COSATU and everybody don't have to worry and second guess us about what will happen to worker rights and all of that. DA might have its own ideas. They are not our partners. They are our strategic opponents who have agreed in the interest of the country, let's work together. Otherwise, they too could have taken a different option. But nobody can govern here alone, including the ANC. And nobody can govern this country without us, because 6 million people said, you cannot. And that's it. So we are not begging each other. We are matured. We respect each other. We talk to each other. We know our boundaries. We know our principles, and we'll die with them. And that's what is important. So we must not be blackmailed by armchair critics who have never contributed to the ANC victory and today want to give us a big lecture about what must happen to the National Democratic Revolution. When you tweet every day and you say things about everything else that you say, that this ANC of Ramaphosa must be brought down, you should have known the implications. And we told them that you are putting the NDR in a position of vulnerability. Now, we are sitting here, we have campaigned, we have gone to our people, they've given us what we wanted. A responsible party like the ANC says, let's work together. We are working for our people, we work for the country, and we learn from our mistakes. It is time to build trust with the people of South Africa. And for that, we are not going to compromise. And this is what this election have told us. And we thank all political parties and everybody else in our way forward to building a government of national unity and working for peace and stability of our nation. As I repeat myself, no blood was shed since the 29th. All our people accepted the result, painful as they are to some who thought that we will emerge victorious, but South Africans have said, go and work together. Yesterday was a celebration in South Africa, like never before. It was our 1994, what others wished for. That this election is our 1994. Indeed, this was our 1994, and then we came out of it with flying colors, and we will continue to engage with everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SG. I am certain that that was a very comprehensive response. At this point, I'd like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the media, for joining with us during this time. And we